Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to class. I hope you've enjoyed your half term. So today we'll be continuing on our discussion on health inequalities, but today we'll be focusing on 2.3, which is your final criteria for this unit. So again, congratulations. Only a little more to go and you can enjoy your summer break. So today we're going to be looking at theories of health and welfare inequalities and health policy. Now you notice that I've put criteria 2.3a and I'll explain that. So your assignment brief says evaluate the relationship between theories of health inequality and the development of health policies. Okay, if you read this sentence you find out that it's asking you to do two different things. So it's asking you to evaluate the relationship between theories of health and equality. Now, if you've never heard of theories of health and equality, you probably won't be able to answer this question. So we're going to start by answering the question, what are theories of health inequalities? So we will discuss all three. So we're going to be looking at the behavioural / cultural, the materialistic / structural, and the psychosocial explanations for health inequalities, and we're going to compare and contrast them before we can start to look at the development of health policies. So the objectives for today are to be able to explain what is a theory in the first place, be able to describe the three theories of health and welfare inequalities. Okay, you notice that I'm using the word health and welfare. This is because that's what's on your assignment brief, but they are in fact the same thing. Okay, so for the sake of this class, I'm just going to call them health inequalities. And finally, be able to analyze the three theories of health inequalities. Okay, know what a theory is, know what the three theories are, and be able to analyze that, compare and contrast the three different theories of health inequalities. Okay, so what is a theory? Okay, I'm not talking about Big Bang theories for all you fans out there, even though that might help you be able to define what a theory is. So this is your first activity. I want you to put in the comment box what you think a theory is. Okay, well, if you've done that, here's a couple bits of definitions. So a theory is a group of ideas used in order to explain something that is not otherwise understood. Okay, a theory says, okay, here's a problem. We don't know what this is. So we're going to try and define it. We're going to try and explain why this happens. Yeah, so a theory can be an explanation for something. So for those of you that like to watch investigative movies and shows, they usually say, oh, this is our working theory. When you're trying to crack a case, you have a way of saying, oh, this is why I think this criminal has done this. This is why I think this person has gone ahead and done this. That's your working theory. That's your way of explaining a situation. Now you recognize that I said your way. You can have several different theories, which is why in this case we're looking at theories of explaining the reason why people have unequal health outcomes. Now there are different ways of explaining health inequalities. So another word for theory could just be an explanation. So the purpose of this lecture is to find out, okay, we know what health inequalities are. They are the unequal health outcomes experienced by different people groups. Now we're going to look at three different ways of understanding why we have had unequal health outcome in different people groups. So yes, like I just said, health inequalities can be defined as the differences in health status or the distribution of health determinants between different population groups. So a theory then would ask the question, why? Why are we seeing an imbalance? Why are we seeing that unfair distribution of health outcomes? So our first way of understanding health inequality is the behavioural / cultural theory of health inequality. Now, a theorist in health is basically a scientist. These are people that like to figure out why. They answer the question why, and they come up with their hypothesis, they come up with their theory. So for the sake of this subject, we're going to call them the behavioral theorists. So the behavioral / cultural theorists believe that culture and behavior suggest that people behave differently. And because people behave differently, we will always see a difference in health outcomes. Okay? So cultural and behavioral theorists believe that the diverse cultures and behaviors are the fundamental causes for health inequalities in the UK. I think we can all agree that the UK is an extremely diverse nation. Okay? Now, because we have different cultures, people will always behave differently. So culture is what you believe in, the way you were raised, your fundamental values. Those will always determine how you behave. So they're saying culture is linked to the way people behave, and the differences in behavior will always lead to differences in health outcomes. Because of someone's culture, they might dress a certain kind of way. For instance, Muslim women, due to culture and religion, they have to, a traditional Muslim woman will dress with her head covered. Now, there might be times of the year where vitamin D, like what we're experiencing right now, is really good for your health. But because during these times of the year, a traditional average Muslim woman has a head cover, she might then have vitamin D deficiency compared to the rest of the women who live in the UK. Hereby we now have a difference in health outcomes. So a Muslim woman versus every other kind of woman who doesn't cover their head. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Culture determines how you behave. Now, how you behave will determine your health outcomes. For instance, someone's behavior might be the super popular one, smoking. Because person A smokes and person B does not smoke, you're automatically going to see a difference in health outcomes. Because person A chooses to exercise and eat a healthy diet and person B does not, you're automatically going to see a difference in health outcomes. So they're saying behavior, especially in a diverse nation like UK, is the fundamental reason why we see differences in health outcome. However, a simple focus on behavior as the fundamental theory for health inequality has two problems. So first, when populations in different social groups but with equal exposure to behavioral risk are compared, mortality remains higher in lower socioeconomic groups. So what this statement is saying is that if you come into one population where everybody, let's use the popular one, everybody smokes, okay? The person who smokes but is a banker will always have better health compared to the person who smokes who works in a factory. So they're saying that simply focusing on behavior is flawed because irrespective of how people choose to behave, the more money you have, you're always going to have better health. Okay? Second, and more importantly, a simple focus on behavior ignores the how and why individuals, in particular social groups, adopt unhealthy behaviors. So another flaw with this theory is that we're simply saying that culture defines behavior, behavior defines health outcomes. However, it's ignoring the fact that some people don't behave in a certain way because they have a choice. So it's the how and the why. It ignores the how and the why people behave a certain kind of way. So to recap, the behavior / cultural theorists believe that the UK is extremely diverse. We have people from different cultures, different backgrounds. Culture will always determine how people behave, and how people behave will determine whether they have good or bad health. Flaws with this is that irrespective of behavior, person with more money will have better health, and this theory ignores the how and why people behave a certain kind of way.